boys and girls. It's really kind of a different King's Kids today, but we kind of want to do something special for you. We miss you all, we love you, and we just hope that you're all okay. We're going to sing a couple songs. We won't do the pledges this time, but we will do a couple songs, and then we'll have our mission story. We'll sing another song, and then Mr. Robertson will do his Bible story for us. So everybody stand up like you do, and we're going to sing our theme song first. So sing along with me, okay? A Child of the King. My Father is rich in houses and lands. He holdeth the wealth of the world in his hands. Of rubies and diamonds, of silver and gold, his coffers are full. He has riches untold. I'm a child of the King, a child of the King, with Jesus my Savior. I'm a child of the King. All right, I hope you sang along with me. We're going to sing in right, out right, up right, down right, okay? So are you standing? All right, let's go. I'm in right, out right, down right, happy all the time. I'm in right, out right, down right, happy all the time. Since Jesus Christ came in and cleansed my heart from sin. I'm in right, out right, down right, happy all the time. Let's do it again. You know the drill. Ready? I'm in right, out right, down right, happy all the time. I'm in right, out right, down right, happy all the time. Since Jesus Christ came in and cleansed my heart from sin. Ready? Big breath. You didn't take a big enough breath. Let's try it again. Ready? In right, out, down, right, happy all the time. All right, you may be seated. Okay, it's been several weeks since we started our story about Greasy. We're going to just review quickly the first 3 lessons that we had already done, because I'm sure you've forgotten some of it. And then next week, Lord willing, we will go into chapter 4. You haven't heard that part yet, but we'll quickly review the first 3 chapters. Pasha Tikhomirov and his family lived in Russia. In they lived in the village of Sosnovka, which was in the region of Mogilev. Yeah, I had to look too because I've forgotten, kids. Anyways, he and his sister Shura lived with his mother and father, and they belonged to the Russian Orthodox Church. And the priest from the Orthodox Church would come and play cards with his father, and they would have drinks and kind of have a really good time. And they played this game that if the person lost, the other person could take the cards and flip them at them, the whole deck, and they'd end up with a red nose. Remember that? Yeah. So anyways, they had a good time. Well, anyways, Pasha and his sister Shura were very happy with the life that they had. But time went by and they had some problems. His dad was a farmer and they had some droughts and they were not getting any good crops. They were going broke. So them and several other farmers decided that they were going to go into Siberia, which was a lot more fertile ground. It was cooler temperatures, and it would be better for them if they went there and tried their hand at farming there. And so several of them packed up all their belongings and they took off on a train, and they were going to have to stop at several different villages and cities before they finally got to Siberia. Well, while they traveled, they had to live off of dried fish that they brought with them, and they had to drink water wherever they could find it. And so they didn't have money to eat out. There just wasn't enough there. So they weren't getting a good diet. And they made it through several villages, but they finally got to one village here at Chilabajig. Anyways, father fell ill, and he got really sick, and the hospital people came and got him. They took him to the hospital, but their mother and the children could not get in to see him. He was very, very ill. Well, he died. Then 3 days later, their mother got sick, and she had to go to the hospital too. And the children were very upset because they weren't allowed to go see her. They kept trying to go and peek in the windows, and they kept being chased off, and they finally found out that father and mother both had cholera, and mother wasn't going to live much longer. So 3 days passed, and then she was gone. And so the children were all alone. They didn't know what to do. All of the other families had already gone off in the train and were on their way to Siberia. And so Shura and Pasha were all alone. They were very scared. And so where do we go? Well, there was a snow fence that kind of kept the breeze, you know, the cold wind from blowing them in the snow. And they're huddled together, and they slept together that night at that snow fence. And they're like, what do we do? They just didn't know. Shura was trying her best to comfort Pasha, but it just wasn't working. She was scared too. And I would be. I don't know about you, but I would be. So anyways, they went to the cemetery after the mother had died and been buried and father had been buried. They went to the cemetery, and they asked the caretaker if he could show them where their mother and father's graves were. And he kind of laughed, and he said, are you kidding? We got so many people to bury. We just dig a big hole and we dump them all together and cover them up. I have no idea where your parents are. Well, that just really broke their hearts. So they're wondering, what are we going to do? Everybody's gone. We have nobody here. We don't know what's going to happen. So they went back to the snow fence, and they huddled together again and cried their little eyes out. And Shura, she knew she was in charge. She had to do something with Pasha, but she didn't know what. Well, they laid there in the darkness as fear swept over them, and they're wondering, what are we going to do? The next morning, a really rough-looking soldier, a guy in a uniform, came up. What are you doing here? And they just kind of, shivered. They didn't know what. Well, they didn't know what to say. Where are your parents? They're dead. And he says, well, you can't stay here. And the worst thing, what they feared all along, was that they were going to get sent to an orphanage. And sure enough, he made sure to it that they had to go to an orphanage, but they didn't get to go together. There was a girls' orphanage, and then several miles away was the boys' orphanage. And when Pasha got to the boys' orphanage, the boys greeted him, but not with warm welcome. They greeted him with sneers and dirty things and looks and hitting them and beating on them, and you're not welcome here. Well, it was a miserable place for him. He didn't want to be there. And the steady diet of fish soup just really got to him, and he planned his way of escape. So he planned it and planned it and planned it, and finally, after a few weeks, he had it down. He knew exactly how he was going to get out of there. And sure enough, he climbed out his window one night, and he climbed down the tree, and he took off towards the forest and ran along the edge of the forest as long as he could until he just totally was wiped out. And he went back into the forest just a little bit and laid down and slept. And then the next day he'd get up and go more and farther into the forest. Then one morning, after he'd been deeper into the forest, he woke up. There were some feet around him and some people, men, rough-looking men. He thought, what are they doing here? So he's like, oh, I'm dead for sure. And he didn't know what to think. They're like, who are you? I'm Pasha Tikhamirov. And he was shaken and he was scared to death. And they're like, why are you here? Well, I escaped from the orphanage. My parents are dead, and I'm sorry. Well, he didn't know what to do, and they said, nah, come on, you'll do. He was only like 10 years old. What are they going to do with a 10-year-old kid? Well, they took him, and he followed them and went with them deeper and deeper and and deeper into the dark, dark forest. He's like, what are you going to do with me? Well, finally they got to a clearing, and he saw some little wagons and a few buildings and things. And he's thinking, he saw a fire, a campfire. Well, and people. Well, maybe this won't be so bad after all. And he smelled food. Boy, was he hungry. So they let him go and get some food and sat him down and asked him a bunch of questions about why he was where he was and what he planned on doing. And he says, I don't know. I'd like to go back to my hometown of Sosnovka and see if I can figure out where people are, but I don't know which way it is. And so anyways, they let him stay. And for several years, Pasha hung out with these gypsies, okay? They called him Greasy because his hair was greasy and dirty, and he was all dirty when they found him, and so they called him Greasy. So anyways, he became accustomed to this new way of life, and he started hanging out and doing the same things that the other guys did, stealing from people, beating people up, being mean, coming back with lots of loot that they had stolen, and they thought it was fun, and Greasy kind of thought it was fun. Well, one day they came on to two men who were traveling, just the two of them, and the men took whatever they had off of them, and they shot them. Even though they begged for their lives, they shot them, killed them. Well, the guys took what they wanted, but there was one bag that one of the men had some books in it, and nobody wanted them, so Greasy picked them up. Okay, but they divided the loot, and when Greasy got back into his tent in the deep, deep, dark, dark forest, he went through his stuff, and he found the books, and found some other things that the guys had given to him, and got one of the books out, and it was a New Testament. And he started looking at it, thinking, wonder what this is. So he started reading, and I got to read this because it's a long verse, but it's out of Romans, and it fell to this page, and this page just opened up to him and said, there is none that seeketh after God. Their throat is an open sepulchre. With their tongues they have used deceit. The poison of asps is under their lips, whose mouth is full of cursing and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Destruction and misery are in their ways, and the way of peace have they not known. There is no fear of God before their eyes. That's the way these men were. They shed innocent blood. They liked to kill people. They liked to hurt people. They liked to steal. They had no thoughts of God in their heads or in their hearts. And so they were wicked. Well, he kept wondering, their feet are swift to shed innocent blood. And he thought of those men that they had killed, and it really got to him. So anyways, he got to wondering, did they have a family? Where were they traveling to? Then he opened it up at the very beginning, and he saw it in the very front page. May 17th, I think it says, 1898, the day of my conversion to the Lord. On this day, he forgave my sins and washed me with his holy blood. Amen. Well, I guess it's May 15th of 1898. What does he mean, washed me with his blood? I gotta think about that. So Greasy started thinking about all these things that had happened, that he'd read in here, and the things that had happened since he joined this gang of people. And God started convicting his heart about it. And he got his book out and started reading it to other people around the campfire. And some of them really wanted to hear it, and some of them didn't. They said, we need to burn that book. It's wicked. It's full of lies. It's full of witchcraft. We got to get rid of it. No, wait a minute, they said. Let's not be so hasty. Let him read a few more times. We want to hear a little more. So he kept reading. And several of the gypsies got saved. They accepted Christ as their Savior, and so did Greasy. And they got to thinking, we need to do something about this. God has forgiven us, but we need to pay a debt to society for what we've done. So several of them decided that they were going to take their weapons and they were going to go to the city before the magistrate and they were going to confess what they had done and they were going to take their punishment. So one day there's several of these gypsies walking into the city with their guns in their hands. Can you imagine the looks they got? Oh, I hope they're not planning on shooting anybody. They walked into the magistrate's office and they decided that Greasy was going to be the guy to do the talking, okay? So he went up to the magistrate and he said, "Sir, we are gypsies. We have lived a life of crime. We have stolen and we have killed people. And we are here because we have accepted Christ as our Savior. We realize that what we have done is wrong and we want to make it right with society. And we are willing to lay down our weapons right here on your desk and take whatever you give to us. And we will serve our time and pay retribution to those that we've harmed." So they confessed. The magistrate was quite surprised. So anyways, he says, "All right." So he said, "Give me your hands." He called the police and they came in and handcuffed him and the other guys and took him off to jail. And they had to wait until they had to appear before a judge. But in the meantime, the magistrate is kind of thinking about what they'd done, He was quite surprised. So he went home and he got to thinking, these guys were willing to go to jail or prison, and now what are they going to do? Wow, that's quite a testimony. So he got his Bible out and started reading it, and guess what? He got saved. Because of Greasy and the other guys and their testimony of faith in Christ, the magistrate got saved. And he called his wife and he says, "My dear, I have come to a conclusion that Jesus Christ is master of all, and I can no longer serve where I'm at. I wish to give my job up, and I am going to serve him the rest of my life." Well, can you imagine how she felt about that? Oh, well. Anyways, he was ready to do it, and he did. He turned in his notice, and he was gone. Well, anyways, the day came when Greasy and his comrades had to go to court, and they told the judge exactly what they had done and why they were there, because they had accepted Christ and that they needed to pay for their sins. And so he said, "Okay." And he hit the desk with his gavel, and he said, "All right, you will serve 10 years of hard labor." 10 years. Well, we'll stop here, and we'll find out what's going to happen to Greasy and his comrades. Are they going to be sorry for what they did? Are they going to be sorry for turning themselves in? Or are they going to be excited about serving their sentence? I don't know. We'll find out next week. All right.
Tell us more.
All right, everyone, stand. All right, everybody stand up. We're going to do one more song before Mr. Robertson comes, okay? All right, let's do "The Devil is a Sly Old Fox," because he really is, isn't he? And he's really being sly by keeping us from being able to be in church, but he's not going to win the battle, is he? Because we're going to be stronger and God's stronger, right? Okay, let's sing it. The devil is a sly old fox. If I could catch him, I'd put him in a box. I'd lock the door and throw away the key. For all those tricks he's played on me, I'm glad I am a Christian. I'm glad I am a Christian. I'm glad I am a Christian and trusting in the Lord. All right, you may be seated.
Good morning, boys and girls. How is everybody this morning? I hope you're all doing well. I too have missed being with you, seeing all your little smiling faces. I was watching you while you were singing, and some of you weren't doing the motions, but we'll let it go this time. Well, are you ready for a good story? Let's talk about a good story from the Bible today. Okay, I'll get all ready here. Watch your toes. Oops. I'm sorry. Is your foot okay? Oh, that's good. Oop. Oh, no sharp edges. Don't have to worry about my pants this time. All right. The story today takes place in the village of Bethany. Who can tell me some people that we've talked about that live in Bethany? It's two sisters and a brother. Yep. You think you know? Oh, that's one of them. Mary. Yeah, that's one of them. She lives in Bethany. What's her sister's name? How about in the back row there? Yeah. Right. Her sister's name is Martha. And the brother. A little harder name. Oh, I'm sure one of the girls would know. Yeah. How about you? Lazarus? Well, you got it right. Yeah. So Mary, Martha, and Lazarus live in Bethany. But there's another guy that lives in Bethany. And actually, this story today is at his house. And his name is Simon. And Simon, at one point, was a leper. That means he had this stuff growing on his skin that wasn't really great, and it was contagious, and other people would get it, and they'd start getting things on their skin. So if you ever got leprosy, you had to go where the other lepers were so you wouldn't get it on other people, and they wouldn't get it on them. So this one man's name was Simon, and he was a leper until a special day. And that special day is when he met who? Well, who do you think what would be a special day to meet who? Who would you think would be special to meet? Yeah? Right again. You guys are getting all the right answers today. Yeah, when he met Jesus. And what do you think Jesus did for Simon since he was a leper? What do you think? He healed him. And Simon was very, very grateful for that. So, when Simon heard that Jesus was coming to town, he said, I am going to have a party for him, a dinner, invite the disciples, invite some of my friends. I'm going to invite Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, and they'll all come over and we can just have a night, eat some good food, and enjoy ourselves. So Simon is having a special dinner. And that's where we're going to pick it up. So I'm going to put the thing up here so that you'll see what's going on as we're in the house of Simon. But wait a minute. What you guys laughing about? Is there something wrong here? Samson, is there anything wrong here? I didn't think so. It's all cool, right? Nothing's wrong? Okay, that's good. Actually, this isn't even what the story is about this time. But anyway, does that look better? No? That's better, right? We're not even going to use that one. So I'll put the one that's really about the story up so you all can see it and get a feeling of what Simon's house looks like. He had it all decorated really nicely for the big celebration they were having. So here we are, Simon's house. What do you think? Pretty nice place. Got the nice, what's wrong now? What you guys laughing about? What? The picture? Oh, you mean the window? Yeah, isn't that a neat window? Yeah. They merely made those special windows. It's hard to make them round at the bottom like that, but you think it's upside down? Oh, okay. Maybe it is. Let's turn it around. There we go. John, are you happy with that one? Oh, that's good. Okay, so here we are. And who do you think is the host of the party? From looking at the scene here, who do you think is the host? That's the guy, that's Simon. That's the guy that invited everybody there. Who looks like the host? These boys back here, they look like they're just there, right? They're just friends or they're just there. This guy, he could be Simon. But to me, this guy looks more like maybe it's Simon. You know, he's got his hand out like, hey, come on in, enjoy the dinner and all that. Looks like they've got some, man, I don't know what they've got, a turkey there or something good, some good meat there, and they've got some drinks there. So prior to this, I told you that Mary, Martha, and Lazarus are there. So, you know, this could be Lazarus. But let's pretend that that's Simon, and he's invited everybody there. And prior to this dinner, Mary had heard Jesus talking about the fact that he was going to die. And that made Mary very, very sad. And because of that, she wanted to do something very special for Jesus. So she had gone out previously and spent about all the money that she had, and she bought a special little thing that had ointment, perfume ointment in it. There it is. And this is it. And so Mary was waiting to be able to do something special for Jesus. And she was going to do this. She was going to pour it on him after he died. But during the discussion at the dinner, the men were talking about the fact that they were going to make Jesus the king. They wanted him to be the king. And Mary got all excited about that because she's thinking, oh, I can use my special ointment, my fragrant perfume, and I can put it on Jesus right now because they're going to make him the king. And so she went, you know, she was, you can't see Mary or Martha. Of course, Martha's in the kitchen. Lazarus is standing there, but Mary's back behind. You can't see Mary, but she went back and she got her special little thing with the perfume because she wanted to put it on Jesus. So Jesus was there, and they all started eating, and Jesus had sat down and was eating, and Mary thought that, oh, this is the special time that I can go and I can put this on Jesus. And so she ran and got her thing, and she went over to Jesus while everybody else was busy, and she poured some on his head, and she poured some on his feet. And then, because she loved Jesus so much, she actually took her long hair and wiped the ointment off of Jesus' feet with her hair. It was a very special thing, an act of love of Mary towards Jesus. Now, you guys probably remember this, but not all of the disciples were all good guys, right? One of the disciples never did really love Jesus, never did really want to follow him. Do you remember what his name was? Yeah? What do you think? And you're one of the little girls, and I'm sorry, you didn't get the right answer. Should we ask the guys? Yes, in the back row. Yes, Isaac, what do you think? Who was not the good disciple? Right, yep, I knew you'd get it. Yeah, it was this guy. Remember him? Remember his name? Judas. Yeah, he looks like sort of a guy, but not a great guy. But anyway, Judas, after he saw Mary do this, he makes a big thing right out in the middle of the party, and he says, "Why did you do that? Don't you know that was a lot of money that you just wasted by pouring it out?" And Jesus was sitting there close to Mary, obviously, and Mary's face got really sad because of the way Judas was talking. And Jesus said to Judas, he said, "Judas, leave her alone. She has done this very special thing for me because she loves me and because she's doing this for my burial." Because remember, Jesus had said that he was going to die. And so this act that Mary is doing here is actually going to be remembered throughout time. And you know how it's remembered throughout time? Because it's recorded in the Bible. And so Jesus sort of said to Judas, "Hey, Judas, be quiet. This is important. She has done this for me." I left out one little point. How do you think all of the other people in the room knew that Mary was doing this? They might have been, eating and things like that. How do you think they knew that this was being done, the pouring out of the ointment there? What do you think? I'll give you a clue. Yes, it smelled very nice. And so pretty soon the whole room had this very nice smell. And then they said, "Where's the smell coming from?" And then they noticed Mary over by Jesus. And that's when our friend Judas got all bent out of shape about it. But Jesus said, this has been a special thing that Mary did just for me. And it's going to be remembered, recorded in the Bible. He didn't say recorded in the Bible, but of course it is recorded in the Bible. So Mary is even spoken of about this thing right now. Now I've got a question. Do you remember Jesus's words to his disciples? He said to them, "How can you show me how much you love me?" Do you know how we can show Jesus how much we love him? Just like Mary wanted to show Jesus how much she loved him. How can we show Jesus how much we love him? Well, Jesus even told us how we can show him how much we love him. We can show him by following his commandments. Jesus told his disciples, "If you love me, you'll keep my commandments." And what are Jesus' commandments? How about for you young people? When you're at home, tell me some of high commandments from the Bible that are directed towards children. Well, I can think of one that I had fun teaching my children when they were growing up, because I think it's in Ephesians chapter 6. And right at the beginning it says, "Children, obey your parents, for this is well-pleasing unto the Lord." So if you want to show love to Jesus, just like Mary showed love to Jesus, the best way you can do it is to obey your parents. All right. Well, that's the end of the lesson for today. And I see you all back here again soon.